Why do we need OSHA? Not every employer believes that keeping their employees safe is a priority or even a concern. Throughout the last century and a half, the United States has experienced major losses of life in the industrial and construction worlds.
The Panama Canal. A private French company started construction on the Panama Canal in 1889 and abandoned the project in 1898 at a cost of $260 million and approximately 50,000 lives lost. The United States took the project over and completed it 10 years later for an additional $375 million and 5,600 more lives lost. The Quebec Bridge. Construction began in 1904, but the bridge was doomed from the start. The true weight of the bridge was never properly calculated. Near the end of the job, a local engineer noticed a distortion in the bridge. The general contractor claimed that the structure was bent before installation. When the engineer in charge found the error, he telegraphed an immediate stop work order. But it was too late. 86 men were working on the bridge that day in August, when in less than 15 seconds, the bridge collapsed under its own weight, killing 75 iron workers. The Triangle Shirt Factory Fire. 141 men, women, and children were killed when a fire broke out at shift change on March 25, 1911. Escape was made nearly impossible because all but one door had been chained by the company to prevent thefts. Some jumped to their deaths. Scores more were found piled up in front of the chained, locked exits. The Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge is a suspension bridge located in the opening of the San Francisco Bay. It was the largest suspension bridge in the world when it was completed in 1937. Construction began on January 5, 1933. A unique aspect of the bridge's construction was a safety net set up underneath it, specifically reducing the expected number of deaths for such a project. 11 men were killed from falls during the construction, and approximately 19 men were saved by the safety net. 10 of the deaths occurred near completion when the safety net itself failed under the stress of a scaffold fall. The 19 workers whose lives were saved by the safety nets became proud members of the Halfway to Hell Club. The bridge worksite goes down in history as being the first hard hat only construction site.
The Empire State Building. Started January 22, 1930, the expected death rate was 1 death per every floor of the building. It was going to be the tallest building in the world at 102 floors. The general contractor had to develop new equipment, logistical planning, and safety measures to complete the building. At its peak, the job site employed 3,400 workers, mostly immigrants and non-English speaking workers. In the end, 14 lost their lives. They did build the world's tallest building, and it remained that way for 41 years. Hoover Dam, then known as Boulder Dam. Construction began in 1931. It was completed in 1936, over 2 years ahead of schedule. $49 million was the final cost. 726 feet high, 1,244 feet long, 666 feet at the base, and 45 feet thick at the top. Hoover Dam contains 4.36 million yards of concrete to hold back the mighty Colorado River, making Lake Mead. The death toll during construction is about 96 workers. More likely died during the pre-construction phase, but the official total stands at 96. Contrary to popular folklore, no one is buried in the concrete of the dam. The engineers would not have allowed it because of fears that it would weaken the structure. Hawk's Nest, West Virginia. The Hawk's Nest incident involved injuries and deaths as a result of the construction of the Hawk's Nest Tunnel near Gauley Bridge, West Virginia. It was part of a hydroelectric project. The 3-mile tunnel diverting the New River under the Gauley Mountain was constructed by Union Carbide beginning in 1927. In the tunnel, they discovered silica, and the workers were asked to mine this valuable mineral for use in electroplating processing of steel. The workers were not given masks for protection, even though management wore such masks during their short times that they visited for inspections. As a result, many workers, mostly poor and African American, died from silicosis, sometimes as quickly as within a single year. There are no definitive statistics, but sources agree that the resulting fatalities probably totaled approximately 700 to 2,000 of the workers. The Bartley Coal Mine Explosion. On the afternoon of January 10, 1940, 91 men were killed in the Pond Creek No. 2 mine. The exact source of the explosion was never determined, but the exhaust fans that were required to vent deadly explosive gases were not in operation for part of that day. The disaster left 72 widows and 160 orphans. One of the miners was Michael Lazar, my wife's grandfather. In 1970, after a public outcry for safety legislation, President Nixon signed the Williams-Steiger Act into law, and OSHA was created. Willow Island, West Virginia. A cooling tower under construction collapsed on April 17, 1978, killing 51 construction workers. A jump form system was being used, with forms secured by bolts in 1-day and 3-day-old concrete. The forms were designed to be progressively moved up the tower as it was built. The temperature had been in the mid-30s at night. The National Bureau of Standards found that the concrete had not attained enough strength to support the forms.
The most probable cause of the collapse was the imposition of construction loads on the shell before the concrete of lift 28 had gained adequate strength to support these loads.
Imperial Foods, Hamlet, North Carolina. According to official reports, 25 people died and 49 were injured as a result of a fire in the Imperial chicken processing plant. Witnesses at the scene described panicked workers as screaming, "Let me out! Let me out!" as they tried to kick open doors that were reportedly padlocked by plant management to prevent vandalism and theft. Footprint indications were evident on the inside of at least one door.
Remember that OSHA isn't just a set of rules. It's a lifeline, a promise of protection in a world filled with hazards. Because when it comes to safety, there are no shortcuts, no compromises, and that's why OSHA is not just necessary, it's essential.